Okay. What we're going to do, we have some items here that we can deal with because about another 15 minutes we're going to begin a public hearing. We have speakers. We have Ms. Joanne Jones regarding council on Zoom meetings, or in one particular meeting is cited here, meeting on August 31st, 2021. I don't see Ms. Jones present here. She's not here. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Harold Doucet Sr. regarding the fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed budget. To begin by stating your name, please, sir, and your address and your business in front of the council.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Harold Doucet. I reside at 5180 Cambridge Street, Port Arthur, Texas. I'm here this morning in reference to the budget. This time of year is probably the most difficult time for any cities when it comes time to doing budgets. You know, normally you have, you either finish the year where you had made more money than you spent, which means less work, or you end the year where you spent more money than you made and you have a little work, and sometimes you have it where you spend more than you receive, and you also have to have extra money for what you want to spend. So therefore, you have to do a lot of work. This budget here we have is one that I haven't seen in a while, whereby we have a lot of work that needs to be done for a simple fact that you're ending the year with 5.4 million over the revenue. Then coupled with that, you also have a deficit with your proposed budget of over $7 million, which means that you have to balance that budget, the one you're going to be talking about, in order to approve it. Well, I looked at the budget and the way it's being presented, and from the conversations and the meeting you all have heard, it's obvious that the method that is being chose right now is to balance the budget, the $7 million, by going to the fund balance. That's the most disturbing portion of the budget that I see, because you're starting out in 2019, 20 year, we had $28 million in the fund balance. I'll say reserves so citizens can understand. In the reserves, when we started this current year, and I was on council, we approved it, we had $28 million in the reserves. And now at the end of the year, you overspent $5 million, and you want to balance your budget with $7 million. If you look at the estimated amount that is predicted to be there at the end of your proposed budget year in your reserve is $20 million. That may sound good right now, but if you have hurricane, and the key part about it is this budget you're doing now, you have this season for hurricane and winter, and then you have also hurricane season next year that's going to be within this budget that you're fixing to approve. So although you may end up with more money in the reserves than what is required for you to have by the state, that doesn't mean anything if you have disaster, because you don't have to spend money long before you can reimburse. And you also be able to have to spend money that you won't get reimbursed for. That's the purpose for the reserves. So our reserves have to be protected to the point that we do not have to worry about having just what we need, but having what we may need in order to better serve the citizens in case of disasters or any unforeseen events that will occur once this budget is approved. Now, how you go about balancing the budget is the key to the work. When you have a deficit of $7 million, you have three choices in balancing budgets. One, you fund it in a reserve. Two, you go back to the drawing board and start looking at what you're spending money on for that coming year, and you start slashing your expenditures. Or 3, you raise taxes. That's how you balance the budget. In this particular case, I see no action for reducing the deficit. It's going to the fund balance and won't take the whole $7 million. But when I look at your balance and your expenditures, you are creating new positions. You're offering a raise to employees. So you need to ask yourself, when you have to balance a budget and you're talking $7 million, do you increase jobs? Most people freeze jobs hiring. You can actually freeze jobs. Another key area that I ask that you look at is the streets program. In this year's budget, you have $10 million allocated for streets. Then you have $3.5 million that's going to come out the general fund. $3.5 million. If you check on how much you actually have right now that is already allocated for streets, and take a look at how much streets you're doing and what you can do, you're going to find out you're going to end up stacking money into streets again. In this budget, you don't see how much is remaining that has already been allocated. And you keep putting the money in. It's like putting money for something, but you ain't doing it. Well, this is a time when you take a look at those things. That's $3.5 million right there out of your general fund. You could put the $10 million. That $10 million still will not be spent at the end of this year. Now I'll put my life on that. Because you got to contract streets, design streets, and then do streets. And you already have, I don't know how much money already in there that you haven't spent. So these are things that are readily available to slash this expenditure without having to take so much money out of that fund balance. I came on council in 2011, and council had just borrowed $17.6 million from the industry because the fund balance had got low. And if you don't protect your fund balance, that's what can happen. You cannot predict what will happen. That's why it's a reserve. The best way you can serve and protect citizens.
Excuse me, Mr. Doucet, if you don't mind, I have allowed you about 6 minutes. We have some other times because we want to begin our public hearing.
Sure. Yes, I could finish up the public here. No problem.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the next speaker we have is Mr. Hilton Kelly of the Community in Power, and so now
first the public, and then they'll follow up. Either way, if
Okay.
you want, but it's really for the public. But go ahead. But if
So
she
we
wants
want
to
the
go
public
ahead and
to-
say stuff, okay. And then after
Okay.
she makes her comments, this is for the public. Okay. Okay.
All right. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I do have a short presentation prior to the public comments, and we can move forward. This is pretty short. The first slide that I have shows the increases, decreases that we made to the proposed budget that we presented to you on August 13th. We have made some changes along the way, and so I've kind of summarized those for you. This is the general fund changes. We're adding $350,000 related to police collective bargaining proposal. As I had mentioned before, we had a transfer of one position from the city attorney to development services, which reduced the city attorney's budget $55,000 and increased development services. We also are proposing a reduction of $900,000 due to leasing some vehicles versus purchasing them. I believe we have a presentation later on from Enterprise Fleet Management to discuss that a little further. But the total result for the general fund is a $550,000 decrease. Next page, Lindsay. This page, I think you've seen some of it before, shows the fund summaries for this current fiscal year end estimate, the revenues, the operating expenditures, the transfers to capital improvement, other transfers, and then the net. And then down to the ending fund balance, we expect to end this year at about $27.5 million. For our original proposed budget resulted in a $20 million fund balance. And when we've revised it, that will increase the fund balance to 20.5. So that's a $550,000 increase to the fund balance from what we originally proposed. You can see on this page that the revenues are under the expenses for fiscal year 21 by $5.4 million, the proposed 7.4, and then the revised 6.9. But it has been the policy to balance the budget with the exception of transfers to capital improvements. And you can see the line for capital improvements that it's obviously within that amount. Next page, Lindsay. This page further breaks down the balanced budget to show the policy actually reads that operating expenditures must match operating revenues. And here we show the operating revenues less the transfers and the operating expenditures less the transfers. So we're ending the year with a net $6.8 million revenues over expenses. And then the proposed, we still are balanced. It's closer, but we still are balanced. $579,000 in the proposed, and then the revised $229,000 because of the increase to the police. The $900,000 is not reflected in this because it's not an operating expense. It's a transfer. So that's been excluded from this. But you can see that the budget is still balanced in this case. Next page, Lindsay. This is just a detail of the transfers to other funds from the general fund. And you can see that in this current fiscal year, we transferred $13.1 million to capital improvements. And we're proposing this year to transfer $7.9 million in both the proposed and the revised. And then the next transfer is the capital reserve. This year we transferred $2.3 million, and we had originally anticipated transferring $3.5 million to capital reserve, but with the savings in the lease versus the purchase of some of the vehicles, that's now $2.6 million. So you can see that the total transfers in 21 was 18.5. The proposed in 22 is 13.5, and then the revised is 12.6, which is a $900,000 decrease. Next page, Lindsay. This shows our fund balance policy, which our target fund balance policy is 60 days, operating expenditures plus $1.5 million. The year-end estimate for this current year, the ending fund balance of $27.4 million are 149 days, with $14.9 million excess, or 81 days. The proposed budget was $20 million, or 102 days, with $6.7 million excess in 34 days. The revised that we're presenting today is $20.5 million ending fund balance, or 104 days, and $7.2 million excess, or 36 days. Next page, Lindsay. This is just a summary of the general fund revenues, just so you can see how they are categorically. Property taxes, we do have a slight increase there, although we do have a 5-cent reduction in the tax rate. There was an increase of 13% in the values. So we still had a slight increase in revenues there. Industrial payments, on the other hand, are projected to go down about $1 million based on the 5-cent reduction in the tax rate. Sales tax has been very strong all year. We're currently 9% above the previous year. We did project a modest increase of 3% for next year. The gross receipts are the franchise fees, the cable, electric franchise, that type of thing. Those are projected to be up slightly for next year. And then the next line, other revenues, show a $2.3 million decrease. That is primarily because of some one-time revenues that we had come in this year, the sale of the health department building, and some other capital assets. So that's why that's reduced there, because you wouldn't budget for such things. And then a reduction in the transfers in slightly because of a reduction in the transfer from water. Next page, Lindsay. This last page does show the other increases, decreases to the proposed budget that we presented to you. This is the other funds, and these reductions are all due to the option to lease versus purchase of vehicles. The water fund, $180,000 decrease, $180,000 increase to their balance. Solid waste, $15,000 decrease. Regulatory enforcement fund, $35,000 increase, and then the capital reserve fund, the total payout in capital reserve is $1,130,000 less, but their balance will remain the same because the transfers from the other funds are less. So that's basically all I have. If anyone has any questions, or if we want to get on with the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. If we do, we'll call you back. Okay, we're ready for the public.
It's time for
attorney?
the public hearing, yeah. It's
Okay.
time for the public.
So
If council has any questions about the budget,
Yeah.
then it needs to come up at the time the budget ordinance comes up. But this
Okay,
is
yeah.
only for the public.
Okay, so
Okay.
now we will open up for the continuance of the public hearing. If you have anyone from the public who would care to speak, approach, state your name and address, please.
Good morning. Harold Doucet, 5180 Cambridge Street, Port Arthur, Texas. I'll continue what I was talking about. I'm glad that presentation came before you, before I came back up. You know, that's the problem. We have to understand there's a lot of financial terminology, a lot of things that are being said. But the ultimate responsibility for this budget is council. The manager and staff prepares and present, but council has to say. I'm very concerned when the briefing that you're getting is consistently saying this $7 million is for the capital improvement program. We don't approve capital improvement program to be financed by the fund balance, the reserve for all the citizens. So if you're going to want to balance your budget, it's not about the capital improvement projects. Capital improvement program and projects are only part of your budget. The fact of the matter is that when you add all of your money that you're going to spend for whatever you're going to have in your budget, that's your expenditures. Don't care how you cut it. That's the expenditures. How much revenue you're going to get is how much revenue you're going to get. Don't care how you get it. That's the bottom line, and that's the part that council has to be concerned with. The bottom line is you have expenditures of over $7 million, more than what your projected revenues are. That's the bottom line. So what do? You have to be able to balance that budget and make sure that the reserves and fund balance are protected. And in this budget, that's where I came, I see whereby the reserve was not protected. We increase in positions. Some of the positions you got, take a look at them. It's the common thing that has been done that needs to stop. You create positions and you eliminate a position, but the position you created has a higher range in salary. You have to read that personnel. When you see that, you have to have somebody account for it. Why are we doing it? $7 million and reducing that fund balance to $20 million. Give you an idea. If you started 2020 with $32 million and you are projecting the approval of this budget as it is, your fund balance is going to be $20 million. That's $12 million in 1 year. So what makes you think that it can't happen this year if you approve that budget? That's the position you're putting yourself in. And like I said, there are ways to reduce this budget that won't be affecting operation and services. But I'll leave this with you. Is increasing jobs. Changing jobs from one salary range to a higher salary range. During business as usual. Is that the actions that you take when you find out that you have expenditures $7 million or more than what you project in your revenue? Is that the action that you're going to take and survive? Or feel good? Or feel you're going to protect us? The capital improvement program and project should never be mentioned in conjunction with needing to take money out your reserve to fund it. Those projects are a plan. We plan them. If you really want to take a look at it, go back and look at your 2019, 20, and 21 budgets. These projects are supposed to have been starting in 2021 when it was approved. Each year, all you do is add a year in the project. The money should be incompetent. If you look at it in 2021, you had money allocated for $825 for fire, and I'm just using it for example, in fire I think it was, $825 in 2021. Well, now it starts with 2021 going through 26. But if you take a look at it, you didn't spend it, or I don't know what happened, but you got 1.6 that's going to go. That seems like it's twice that amount, so evidently you didn't spend nothing last year, so you're doubling up this year. But you're doubling up at a time when you're $7 million difference. Does that meet the common sense test? I listened to the presentations. I listened to everything. But at the bottom line, it's about understanding simple math. In the bottom line, not all of the words in between. You don't need to hear corporate, because y'all know that exists. Most of the money we get in the form of grants. But you may have to spend money. You know that. Capital improvement projects. Yeah, we approve them. But do we do them if we don't have the money to do it? It's a plan. Don't just accept taking $7 million to balance this budget. I looked at your letter of transmittal. You don't hear the word deficit. Everything is a balanced budget. It's a balanced budget if you take that money out your fund balance and balance it. It's a balanced budget. If not, it's a deficit. When it was presented to you, it's a deficit. They need the $7 million to balance the budget. And it's up to you all to say, okay or no. Go back to the drawing board and start cutting. And after they finish cutting, then you look at it. And if you feel you need to cut some more, you cut it. because that budget is going to be on y'all backs, not the manager or staff, once you approve it. I ask that you all take a look at a way of not taking that much out of the fund balance to reserve to balance this budget. And all this talk about after this, after that, after the public hearing, you all have, that item will come before you. When that item come before you, you can start discussing and you can call for changes. Still, that budget does not have to be approved as is. That's why it says your item you will be doing is consideration for adoption and approval. And that's what you do. I mean, I've seen this rodeo before. Like I said, I've seen a budget where we presented $5.6 million and we said, no, we're not going. Next workshop, we presented with, we need 2.8. Oh, that's a lot better than 5.6. That's where you all are now. Whether you want to allow that $7 million to balance that budget, or you want the manager and staff to go back in and start looking at, do this budget to reflect that we're missing this much money, not business as usual. Thank you all for your time and not having to be on y'all's side. This feels better on this side. So I know it's difficult, but this is the time of year when you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to put the time in for citizens and for our city. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Doucet, for your comments. Any other comments from the public? None? Okay. Does the council have any considerations before we move to adopt? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Got to get accustomed to watching my board.
Don't know if this is the time, but I want to make sure. I wanted to bring up the, had a question on the EDC's budget. Can I do that at this time? Or when we pull the ordinance up?
This is, because this is a public hearing, is really for the public to make comments. So when the EDC budget comes up, you could do it. I would think when the EDC's budget would come up, Candy, I would defer to Candy, though, if she wants to. Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. Any other council with any comment during this public hearing segment?
Or the manager, I'm sorry.
Or manager? Or? Oh, y'all got to share mics?
Mayor, members of the council, I've listened to the public comments that have been made. I have presented you as your city manager with a balanced budget. Over the years, we have taken $4.5 million from the general fund in order to supplement streets. The council has always stated that streets was a #1 priority. We have always done that. When those who were there and those who were no longer there were members of the council. If you go back to our budget and you read it, you will see that. This year, we have taken $3.5 million to add to capital improvements, which is streets. If you read your budget, you will see that. We have done nothing different today. I have provided you with a balanced budget to make sure that the city continues to operate as it should. If you go back to what Candy provided you with as well, you have operating revenues at $7.9 million, 73.9, $74 million. You have a proposed budget of $72.3 million. How much more can that be balanced? I've left it to the experts. I've worked with the experts for the last 6 months in order to provide you with all the critical information that you need as a council to make very prudent decisions on behalf of the citizens. I have provided you with a balanced budget.
Okay. Okay, thank you, City Manager. Any other comments? I don't see any lights coming on. Any other comments? I think you got a working mic now, Attorney. Yeah.
Mayor.
Okay,
Mayor.
if we, okay, Dr. Kinlaw, go right ahead. I see you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Ron, just to kind of address some of the issues we heard in the public hearing, some of the jobs that we are now implementing, how do you feel that that's going to benefit the city with those upgrade jobs that I personally have a concern with that's going to move this city forward, knowing that we have some jobs that we may need to look into more detail in filling those positions?
I am absolutely confident as your city manager that what I've proposed to you in terms of the new positions is not fluff. If the police chief has asked me for a position, I will make sure that there are the resources that are available, and I will make sure that the chief of police follows the protocol in his request. It goes from him to the HR department and then to me so that the justification can be made at the end of the day. I'm not going to micromanage any head of department where that is concerned. I will give them the necessary tools after I have made the critical analysis of the request to make sure that every department functions as they should without micromanaging them. And so I'm totally satisfied, absolutely satisfied that all the positions that are requested are needed.
Is that good, Council? Okay,
Mayor.
well, but the songs, I think maybe yours that come on first.
I did. I want to follow up on what Councilmember Kinlaw said. We have 65 vacant positions, and we're adding 10 additional positions. Is there any way that we can look at those vacant positions and replace them as you did with the position in the legal department? Or are we needing the vacant positions as well, in addition?
I will continue to look at those positions. One of the things that I do intend to do is there's $185,000 that is allocated to look at the organization for an organizational analysis. You requested that as a council, that amount of money be put in there. As I continue to do that, I will review every single position in the organization to see where I can merge and freeze, but that is an administrative decision that the city manager will make, and I will make a recommendation to you.
Okay, Councilwoman Moore.
Yes, and I wanted us, I don't know if we have your budget, a year-end 2021 results. It says on the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget was adopted and projected expenses over the general funds 5.4 amended budget revenue attributable to budgeting for multi-year capital projects. We're not doing anything different this year than we did last year. It's written and it's on your page inside of your budget at the very bottom, and this paragraph right here. You all can go to that and read it. We budgeted for multiple year capital projects. They're listed here on this page on how the budget was prepared and amended. And I just want us to be aware that we're not doing anything differently than we've done in the past for capital projects.
Okay, Councilman Marks.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to again follow up, and I know that it is an administrative. It's under the administrative purview as to how you balance the budget. But we asked Ms. Williams for a report that an email was sent on yesterday I think it was yesterday, and there were seven positions or so. Could you speak to that that have been open for over a year? And in the email that we got, we did not. We're outside of the public hearing?
We're outside of the public hearing because the public hearing is really for the public. So I would
okay.
recommend that we now close the public hearing, and when the budget itself comes up, then you can ask questions about the budget. Because this portion is just for the citizens. So if you would like to close the public hearing and then bring the budget ordinance up and then have those discussions under the budget ordinance.
Okay.
Just to be technical, I'm sorry.
So, do I need a motion for close, I believe? Right. May I get a motion, Councilman Marks, to close?
I move that we close the public
Councilman
hearing.
Jones, may I get a second?
Second, Mayor.
It's been moved and seconded that we will close the public hearing. Ready for question on it? We ready to vote? All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposers? Ayes have it, so it's ordered. The public hearing is now over. Now, we will go to the consideration and action on the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance and the adoption of a tax rate to PO number 6990.
Right.
Okay, and I'll
And
just
that's
read
the
it again
adoption
for
of the budget.
clarification. An adoption ordinance adopting a budget for the ensuing fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and extending through September 30th, 2022 in accordance with Section 7, Article 12 of the Charter of the City of Port Arthur. And I don't have to do ratification, I don't have to do that. May I get a motion on that? Councilman Marks.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. May I get a second? Councilman Jones.
Second, Mayor.
It's been moved and seconded that we would adopt PO number 6990 as read. Are we ready for question?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Yes, I want to thank the staff and I want to thank the city manager and all those who've been working on this budget. I also want to thank all of the citizens who've come forward on today, or the one citizen that did come forth on today. I want to thank Councilwoman Moses for bringing to bear on today that the budget that we are going to approve is really no different from the past experiences of previous councils as well, in the fact that the capital improvements has come from the fund balance, and we have heard from our citizens continually about streets, and more streets. As I'm going to cast a vote to approve this budget and thank the city manager and the finance department for putting forth this budget, the only thing that I would add and the only thing that I would say is that I would encourage the city manager, of course, to continue to be aggressive. One of the things that the public did say on today was that he could make a wager that money would still be in the coffers of the city, even as we are approving it on today. He was willing to make a wager that money would not be spent in those ways to help to fix the streets of the city. And I want to encourage the finance department. I want to encourage the city manager and the staff and all of us to do what is necessary to get those projects on the way and to get streets, to get contracts done, to get contractors, to do whatever is needful and necessary to get the streets fixed and done, going above and beyond, so that money will be allocated and that money will be used to improve the infrastructure of our streets. One of the things that we did as well continually talk about, Mayor and Council, is the CARES Act and all of those things. And when you hear those things talked about by whatever news source that you hear them discussing it, you hear them talking about shovel-ready projects. Shovel-ready projects. And so those things are needful, and that's what's necessary in this regard. So, Mr. City Manager, Thank you for the putting together of a balanced budget, and we have allocated, and I will vote for this budget on today based upon the fact that those capital improvements are in this budget for streets, but let's make that happen. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Frank. Councilman Mark.
Yes, just want to continue with the email that Mrs. Williams sent to us on yesterday concerning positions that were open for longer than a year. And could you explain with some detail about those positions, how long they've been open, and what type of financial impact each one of those positions could have on our budget?
Yes, sir. Good morning. And I just want to clarify that the information that you all requested on the September 7th meeting, it was actually sent out Saturday, September the 11th at 12:35. Of those 7 positions, the TCO we discussed at the last council meeting, that's a position that's hardly ever really filled all the time. It's a very stressful position. You have to be a certain type of person to fill that position and do it to the best of your abilities. So that one is one that's always open. We do get lucky and have some individuals that come in and they pick up on the job and they complete the training, but it's a very difficult position to keep filled. The Public Works Streets Equipment Operator 1, I'm really not sure why that one's been open for so long. I know that my office has been in contact with the superintendent and interviews have been made. Well, they've been completed. I just need to see if there's been a recommendation for that said position. The Treatment Plant Operator 1 and the Teapot, those are positions that require licenses that some individuals just can't pass the test for those licenses. So that one's open quite often as well. The 3 maintenance crew supervisors in distribution, that's also a position that requires a license, and individuals have difficulty passing that test as well. And the maintenance worker 2, I'll have to check for you guys because that's just an entry-level position, and I'm not sure why that one's been open for so long. Now, the financial impact, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I'm not sure if Ms. Daniels would have that information. And that's all the positions that have been open for more than a year.
Let me just add, with the 2 maintenance worker positions, the financial impact is less than $100,000. With the other licensure positions, we are constantly in competition with other municipalities, because as soon as we hire an individual and we provide them with opportunities for licensure, they go somewhere else where they get $2 more an hour. So you hardly keep anybody unless you continue to train a cadre of individuals to maintain those positions. And so one of the things that we have to do, I have to do right now, is to look at the wages that I'm paying those people to see whether I can retain them instead of they leaving, going to the city of Groves, Nederland, or to Houston to work. That's what I've got to do. But I've got to be very careful in doing that so that I do not make that comparison to the disadvantage of other employees that work in the same division or the same department. So those positions require some sort of careful analysis and evaluation before I can step in and make the monetary changes that are needed for that. But in the meantime, I will continue to make sure that I continue to attract and retain those persons who we need with the appropriate licensure to make sure that the water is safe to drink.
Okay. Are you complete? Is that sufficient for you, Mr. Mark? Okay, Councilman Kinlaw.
Manager, and just don't get me wrong about that is in your lane, but however, these jobs have been vacant for over a year, and if we're not getting these positions filled, and I see that we've taken a position, well, you've taken a position from the city attorney and allocated that person development services, so if we're not going to use it, and they're not going to help us, get that healthy water that you were speaking of, So why do we keep on budgeting for these positions and we can't fill these positions, 2 positions that the director has stated that she have to get back to you or the council on why haven't we got any progression? And I knew, this day would come 6-7 months ago when I asked about why can't we fill positions, those 60, 70 positions Councilwoman Holmes was speaking of. I have a concern with that. I mean, we passed the buck. We say we're going to do something. This is preventing us from doing it. So as a council member, I have a concern with that. My concern is if we're going to rewrite these job descriptions and get people hired, why can't we do that? Why does it take so long? Last time I asked that question, it was 7-8 months ago, and we still at that point today. So of course, it is your lane, but I have a concern that we are able to take a position from the city attorney's office, allocate that person to development services. Then we have positions that are been over a year that we can't fill. They can't help us with the healthy water that you were talking about, but we still budget for them. So that's my concern. And it's nothing personal. It's just me as a council member wanting to get answers for that.
Councilor, it's never personal with me.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm going to give you the raw explanation that's needed. When I make a decision with the city attorney to transfer one position to another department, that is the decision between myself and the city attorney. I'm not imposing my will on the city attorney to do that, or I'm not demanding of the city attorney that is done. That is done through consultation to make sure that the position is transferred in order that the services are best utilized where it's needed. And that's how we communicate, both on the city attorney and I. I don't demand it of the city attorney, no. We work together as a team to ensure, again, that the resources are being properly deployed throughout the city to serve the city appropriately. That's how we agreed to this. Isn't that right, city attorney? Okay. As far as the licensure is concerned, we do have applicants. People do come in. They do fill the positions. But as soon as they come in and somebody offer them $1 elsewhere, they go. So it's a revolving door constantly. No, you cannot change the job description in order to fulfill the requirements by not having the appropriate requirements for the licenses. So that has to be included as well. But as I indicated, it's a revolving door. As soon as they come in, somebody offers them 50 cents or 25 cents elsewhere. They move out. Isn't that not the case?
That's true.
Yeah. So we are constantly filling the positions. But as soon as we fill it, sometimes 2 months. The individual will stay for 2 months.
Am I wrong by saying that these positions that she sent out on Saturday at 12 o'clock hadn't been filled in over a year? So where's the revolving door about that?
Because they are constantly being exited.
Yeah, okay.
They stay there for 2 months, so it's open.
I'm saying, have we filled these positions at all? They have been vacant for over a year. Am I understanding that correctly?
These positions have been vacant for over a year.
We're not talking about a revolving door, City Manager.
Not with these particular
Not with these positions. I hear what you're saying, and I know it's a hard, difficult task that you have. But the ones that Councilman Mark requested, and I also requested, and along with the council, it's been over a year. So those are the jobs that I have, a situation where that I have to approve a budget that you bring before the council and trying to understand why can't we get these jobs filled, even though they don't have the license.
Well, listen, if we listen to what's happening globally, the last report that came out, on the jobs market, the President of the United States expected 750 million jobs to be filled. When Wall Street came on that very same morning, I was listening to it, there were only 250 jobs. The president was very disappointed, and he addressed it, all of us as Americans, as to why those jobs were not filled. Don't you think that has an impact on the local economy as well? It does, because what happens at the national level is a direct reflection of what is occurring at the local level. We are not insular as far as that is concerned. And those things have to be taken into consideration, because we do not operate on an island by ourselves. What happens in the national economy does happen in the local economy. So we have to take that into consideration. Nobody is sitting on jobs here to make sure that the job is not filled. I am not, the head of department is not. It's a reflection of what's happening in the national economy. It is.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
Is that good? Councilman Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the Finance Department for a heck of a good job on adjusting and balancing the budget. I think Mr. Scott Moore's team done a good job to work hard and to work long adjusting this budget. And like Councilman Frey said, I'm going to support it. But I do have some concerns. If you all can remember, Council Lady Holmes wasn't on council. Councilmember Frank wasn't on Marks. I made a comment to you all about these vacancies. Moses might remember Kinlaw and Bartie. I said about these job vacancies. I said to you all, I said, we up here discussing these job vacancies. When we leave here, we're going home in our comfortable homes and eat and sleep. But people want to feed their kids coming up for Thanksgiving and Christmas. My comments to make to y'all. Remember that comments? I said people want jobs. That people needing jobs to feed their little kids. I wasn't happy about this job thing then. I'm not happy about it now. I'm like, I know the manager might have been trying, or Ms. Williams might have been trying, but as Councilman Kinlaw said, over a year, we discussed the SIP problem last year. I was unhappy about it then and very unhappy about it now. Same amount. We had 67 vacancies then. How many do we have now?
It's right at 70, I think.
You know, city manager, you know how I am. I don't believe in keeping the can down the road. I don't believe in just sounding good, you know, discussing the city up here, people starving, people needing jobs. I don't know what our problem is. We hadn't got these vacancies filled in over a year, but city manager and HR, we got to do better. I discussed it with you all last year. Y'all remember this? I said people needing jobs, feed their families. We going home. I leave here. I'm going to my recliner. I'm going to eat and sleep, and thank God I'm gonna be all right. Somebody out there want to feed their families. Why we busting these jobs? Why we can't get them filled? What's the problem? We keep sounding good. You know, we keep rehearsing. You know what we're going to do. Let's get these vacancies, job filled. Let's hire these people. Let's get this ball once and all. Let's get this ball rolling. Let's put people at work. That's what I'm saying. But other than that, you know, the budget's super. I love the budget. Y'all did a good job in the budget, Mr. Scott Moore and his team. Let's get the people some jobs. Let's stop.
Okay, Councilman Moses.
Let's stop saying what we're going to do, and let's get people some work. Thank you.
I know we're still on readiness now, y'all. We got a vote that we have to take. I want to lose focus. Yeah, we've never done it this long.
Yeah, and my comment isn't long. I too thank Candy, Scott, Mr. Moore, City Manager for the budget that we have. Again, it's not any different than the budget we've had before, including the jobs that are vacant. We've just got to do a better job of filling these positions, holding supervisors and department heads accountable if they don't need the job, and you haven't filled it in a year, and that person hasn't worked, or if you've allowed someone to work in overtime, or allowed somebody to work in that place, or allowed someone to do that job, then you upgrade the person you've allowed to do the job and get rid of the job on the bottom. We know how it works. Mm-hmm. We need to do a better job of either getting rid of these jobs. Maintenance worker twos require CDLs. We know that the jobs are hard to fill because as soon as the city manager said, I hired for 15 to 20 years here, and a maintenance worker two, those low-level jobs, you cannot keep them. As soon as you fill it, a person that gets promoted or they leave out of that job. And when they leave out of that job, they're going somewhere they can make more money. They get their licenses on the city, but I do suggest that maybe the city will put in something where you have to stay here for a certain amount of time, where we're not having a revolving door. There can be some contingencies put in that if you're hired and we pay for your license, then you have to remain here 3 to 5 years, and then we don't lose them as quick as they come in. So we've got to be able to put some type of constraints in the policy or in our hiring policy for those low-level jobs so that we can maintain an adequate staff. We don't need the position. We need to get rid of them and remove them out of the budget. I'm done.
Let me just add this one more thing. I have made it much easier. I'm very passionate about, first of all, hiring Port Arthur people. That's the first thing I look at when I get a status and wage before me. Are they from Port Arthur? And then I say, go look again. One of the things that I have done, I have removed the requirement for a CDL in those low positions. I removed it completely. Mm-hmm. I told them so. Don't come to me with that now, that if the individual needs a CDL, we will give them 6 months. We will give them 6, and we'll do it for free. We'll send them to train through the EDC or through Lama, and we'll pay for it ourselves. So I've removed, because it doesn't make sense to ask an individual for a CDL who's going to drive a tractor or lawnmower, So I've removed that requirement to make sure that we attract more and more of our Port Arthur residents, in order to do that and to keep them, And I've also added that we pay for it ourselves, in order to keep them. So we are continuing to look at the policies that has been written in place and to see how I can remove any barrier that has been in there that has prevented us or continues to be a barrier that will prevent us from hiring local people.
Mayor, I have one.
Excuse me, Councilman Frank, you had
I yield. I let Councilwoman Moses finish.
Thank you. And that's a good thing because that's held a lot of people back in the day.
Yes.
But what happens now, Manager, just a suggestion that maybe you can put those that you remove that from, and once we pay for them to get that training, that now they have to remain here for a certain period of time. And that may be something you can review. I don't know.
We will.
Right.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, on the last meeting that we were here, you were out that meeting, but the report that we received was really a tremendous report. And one of the things, and I appreciate the fact that you have a global view, because you're right, this is not insular, and this is, we're simply a microcosm of what's going on worldwide. But one of the things that we did note in the report that we were given as we were looking at is that in some instances, the requisition, which is the initiating part of getting the positions filled, had not been accomplished yet. And so that is one of the things that is where one of the disconnects is. And so we've got to make sure that the requisitions are done so that we can get the ball rolling so that they can get some of those positions filled. So that is kind of where the disconnect is.
Yeah. And I remember I was listening to the meeting. I remembered you asking for clarification on that matter, because what we do every Friday, I ask the HR department, send out an email every Friday before we leave. Every head of department must get that email about positions that are open in your department. I need them to be filled.
And here's the thing.
I need you to act on it before Monday morning, religiously, every Friday.
Correct.
Every Friday.
Well, one of the key points that I always understand is people don't do what you expect; they do what you inspect. Yeah. So, that's you can ask for those things. So.
Okay.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
will
Mayor.
continue to work on it. We will.
Thank you.
We will. Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to vote on
Thank you.
PO number 6990, just to refresh you. Thank you, Ms. Williams. And appropriation ordinance, adopting the budget for the city of Port Arthur. City Secretary, are you prepared for the roll call?
Yes, sir.
Mute yourself, Councilman Frank.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes, Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinlaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Moses, Mayor Bartie.
Yes.
Measure passes.
Okay. Thank you. Now, we are moving right along to, and let me see, and this is the one I was putting before the other one. This is 6991. And this is an ordinance, an appropriation ordinance, approving and adopting the budget for the City of Port Arthur Section 4A Economic Development Corporation for the ensuing fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, in accordance with Section 12.03 of the bylaws of the said corporation. May I get a motion, Councilwoman Moses?
So moved.
May I get a second, Councilman Moore?
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we would accept P.O. number 6991, I believe it is. I think I'm doing the right one, yeah. As read, are we ready for question? Okay, Councilwoman Moses?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question. I noticed in the economic development budget a couple of things. I wanted to, first of all, address, I noticed that the deputy director position has been removed from the budget. I wanted to know why and who approved it.
I see Mr. Baptiste is approaching.
And I have another one as well.
Yes, ma'am. That position, about 2-3 years ago, went to the board to ask. I was in a transition period, and went to the board and asked the board for the position. And then we came to the council, and the council added that position because I was in transition. The board chose to go out for a new director. So in preparing the budget, we did not see a need. I did not see a need for a deputy because the board made a decision for a new director.
Okay, so the board made a decision for a new director,
Right.
but the board didn't make a decision about not having a deputy director as you saw fit to add that job 3 years ago. So that to me that the need was there.
The purpose, Councilwoman, of the deputy director was to transition into the director. For the last 17 years, we never had a deputy director. The only purpose was the deputy director is because I had gone to the board and said to the board that I wanted to transition out, but we wanted to prepare someone for that transition. When the board made a decision that they were going to go out for a new director, we're only 5 people over there.
I understand.
And it's in preparing the budget, I did not think it take 2 levels of supervision to supervise 5 people.
I understand your thought, but basically I think that would be up to the new director to decide if he wanted that job out of that budget. But that's my opinion, and I'm going to make an amendment to the budget, to the EDC's budget. If it fails or not, then I'll just ask. But I do think that that would not be left up to you to make that decision because your last day is the end of this month, correct?
Well, it's up to, and I said to my board,
yes, sir.
If the board want to add another level of supervision, they could amend the budget and add the salary and benefits of this position. But my recommendation to them was 2 levels of supervision for 5 people. It's up to them.
Okay.
You know,
and that,
it's up to them.
And I
it's
think
up to them.
Right, and it'd be up to the interim. My other question is, what other personnel changes have you made to your budget in here in reference to salaries or?
The only other no personnel. What we did, we reclassified 1 position.
What position is that?
We reclassified the employment and development manager to the employment and development specialist.
So you downgraded it?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money is that?
Tamika.
And is someone currently filling that position?
Ma'am.
Is someone currently filling that position?
Well, the position is not, the reclassification is not effective till October 1.
I said, is it currently filled with a person?
Yes.
So you're downgrading a person's job.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Can I make is this the time that I'm making a?
Yes, go right ahead. You got the floor. Go ahead.
I want to make an amendment to them.
I want to be sure that if we can probably.
Oh, no,
fairly do
I'm
it.
done. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Let me see. Can we
One last
probably?
question, right quick, for Mr. Baptiste.
Mr. Baptiste, well, he has another question. Yes,
I want
sir.
to make an amendment to that motion, to the motion that's on the table. Once you do this, okay.
Mr. Baptiste,
Yes, sir.
this position you say you eliminated or you reduced or you downgraded,
Yes, sir.
who hold that position now?
City manager, I'm sorry, Mayor, may I interrupt?
Yes, ma'am.
When we're dealing with the budget, we can't really get into personnel matters. So, you know.
Was somebody, let's put it this way, was
But-
somebody resident on staff working there? Okay.
But I can make a motion to amend the budget.
Oh, you can make a motion to amend the budget,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
can't get into any
No.
particular
Okay.
Never mind, Mayor, going on.
No, I don't want to talk about a person. I already know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never mind.
All right,
go
so
ahead,
now,
Councilman.
go ahead.
Talking about
Councilwoman,
positions.
Yeah, the position.
I'd like
You
to,
want to make an amendment?
Yes.
Can you hold on, Councilman Holmes?
I just had
We
a
good.
question for Mr. Baptiste.
Okay, well, excuse me, just hold up a minute, Ms. Moses. While he was already up, let everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Baptiste, did your board approve removing this position?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The board did approve it.
Okay, Mr. Mark, you had a question for Mr. Baptiste? Oh, okay, no, okay, you just had your light on. No, sir, Mr. Baptiste, his light was on, and I was just trying to get whatever
Okay.
questions he
Okay.
had for you
Yes,
while
sir.
you were there. Okay, Mr. Jones, Councilman
I'm
Jones?
good.
Okay, no, the lights were on, okay. Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Ms. Moses, Councilwoman Moses?
yes, I'd like to make an amendment to the EDC's budget whereby we would continue to keep the EDC Deputy Director in the budget and also continue with the Community and Business Development Manager position. Is that the one? I want to make sure I'm on the right position. I want a motion that we leave it at its current salary rate and range until a new director has been appointed to the EDC.
Okay, do you accept that with your second, Mr. Mark? You seconded, didn't you?
Second.
Okay, are we good doing it like that?
But I want to clarify the position. I want to make sure that I named the correct position because I'm not sure. I don't see it. I'm looking in the new budget schedule, and I see Business Development, Marketing, Recruiting Manager, and I see Community and Business Development Manager. Which one did you lower?
Yeah, Council, that community and development man should be an executive workforce development. It was the workforce development manager. I reclassified to workforce development specialist.
Okay, it's not
It's
not
wrong
named that
in
way.
budget.
Specialist in here.
It's not correct in this budget, right? It should be a workforce development specialist.
Okay, you have Work Community and Business Development Manager, so I'm on the right
that
one.
That position is no longer here, right? We got rid of that position some time ago.
Well, I don't have the. Then I know that the name.
Yeah.
Okay, so Business Development, Marketing, Recruiting Manager. That's what
position
you
is
lowered.
now, right. That
Okay.
position now is the workforce development manager, and I reclassified that to a workforce development specialist.
Okay, well, that position is the one I'm asking that we
Right.
let it remain the way it is prior to this presentation, prior to this budget.
Okay, and that's what you second, right,
That's-
Mr. Mark? Councilman Mark. Okay, and we can accept it like that,
So
attorney?
you have two changes that you want to put back the way it was.
Yes,
In the-
similar
in
to
the
last
original
year's
budget.
In that
Okay,
one
so
amendment.
So what she's now offering is an amendment to PO 6991, and I'm used to looking at the city secretary, so yes, we can go ahead and vote on the amendment. Is
On
that
both
right,
of those?
Sherry? Okay. So we vote on the amendment, and then after that, we'll vote on the floor.
Oh, okay, we have to vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the budget.
What do you
Because
want
we
to-
still have to vote on the budget.
You have a staff schedule.
Talking to
My
Mike, please, for me,
understanding is-
attorney, city manager.
When you prepare the budget, you have a staff.
Turn your mic.
You have a staff schedule that is certified and is sent in as part of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess what the council is asking that you re-adopt the staff schedule that was certified.
In 2021's budget.
2021's budget.
Yes.
As it pertains to those two positions.
As it
Yes,
pertains to
to those.
Because you certify the staff schedule, you send it in. You amend the staff schedule, you send it in.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do,
Yeah.
you want to maintain the certified staff schedule as it appears in the 2021
previous
budget.
In the previous
In the
budget,
previous budget.
2021.
Those two positions.
Yes, for those two
positions.
Y'all
positions.
got that,
You got that?
finance people?
You got it?
No, I saw finance.
Instead of
folks.
putting all that wording in
We
there.
have the
good.
motion, so you can go ahead and vote.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, all in favor of the motion that,
Do a roll call vote.
Do a roll call.
vote.
yeah, all in favor, it not with the motion, but the amendment to the motion. All in favor of the amendment, we're going to vote now. We're ready for, I don't want to ask for any more questions, for nothing.
Would you
Okay,
like for me to do a roll
She's
call?
do a
Go
roll
do the
call.
roll call, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes, Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinlaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Moses,
Yes.
Mayor Bartie.
Yes.
The amendment passes.
Okay, now, we are ready to vote on the budget
For the EDC,
for the EDC,
as amended.
Section 4A Economic Development Corporation for the ensuing fiscal year, and that is in PO number 6991 with the amended amounts that we just passed, with the amended amounts that we just passed. May I get a motion? I already had a motion on it, didn't I?
Yes, sir, we have a motion.
I did.
We're in the middle of a motion. So we're in the middle of a motion. We can't have any further discussion unless you
Okay.
want to pull the motion back.
No,
Okay.
okay, so
When
we
you're in
ready
the
to
middle of a
vote,
motion,
right?
you can't go into any further discussions because it's time to vote.
Okay, yeah, we're ready to vote, okay? But that's what I'm saying, any questions, any more questions
You
on
have
that?
any-
No other discussion on readiness? All in favor, well, we have to do a roll call on that as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes, Councilmember Holmes, Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinlaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Councilmember Moses, Mayor Bartie.
Yes,
Proposed ordinance 6991 was adopted as amended.
okay. Now, I have, PO number 6992, an ordinance adopting the tax rate for the tax year 2021, fiscal year, October 1st, 2021, through September 30th, 2022. And may I get a motion, Councilwoman Moses,
Yes.
on that?
A motion for property tax rate. I move that